In a not-so-distant future, Earth stood at a crossroads. After years of facing threats from various alien races, the people of Earth were determined to protect their home. The government, scientists, and engineers worked together day and night to create something extraordinary. They called it the Planetary Mech, a giant robot designed to defend Earth against any invasion. The Planetary Mech was no ordinary machine. Standing taller than skyscrapers, it was made of strong alloys and advanced technology. Inside its steel frame, powerful weapons and high-tech systems were ready to respond to any danger. The engineers had designed it to be not just a weapon, but a symbol of hope for all humanity. As the day of the first test approached, excitement filled the air. People gathered in the nearby city of New Eden, where the mech was built. Families, journalists, and military personnel flocked to see this groundbreaking event. Banners waved in the wind, and children held their parents' hands, their eyes shining with curiosity and wonder. The sun shone brightly, making the mech's surface gleam. A large crowd cheered as the commander of the project, Dr. Emily Grant, stood before the eager audience. She was a brilliant scientist and a leader in her field. With her confident smile, she addressed the crowd. Today, we stand on the brink of a new era. The Planetary Mech represents our strength, unity, and determination. We will show the universe that Earth is not to be underestimated. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and everyone felt a rush of hope. They believed that this mech could change everything. Families hugged each other, and children dreamed of a future where they could live in peace. As the moment of activation drew near, the control team, a group of skilled pilots and engineers, prepared to operate the mech. They were nervous but excited. This was their chance to show what humanity could achieve. Among them was Alex, a young pilot who had trained for years for this moment. He looked at his fellow team members and said, "Let's make history." Finally, the countdown began. 3, 2, 1, activate! Dr. Grant shouted. The crowd fell silent, holding their breath. A low hum filled the air as the Planetary Mech powered up. Lights flickered, and the mech's massive frame began to move. Slowly, it stood tall, towering above the cheering crowd. Gasps of amazement echoed through the gathering. The mech's arm raised, revealing a powerful cannon. It fired a blast into the sky, creating a spectacular display of lights and sound. The crowd erupted in cheers, and people waved their flags proudly. They felt a sense of security wash over them. For the first time in years, they believed they could defend their planet. But not everyone was happy about the birth of the Planetary Mech. Far across the galaxy, alien warlords watched the event unfold. They had heard rumors of this new weapon and felt threatened. One of the warlords, Zarlok, growled in frustration as he observed the scene through his ship's viewing screen. "This mech could change everything. We must act before it is fully operational. Earth will not stand in our way." Back on Earth, the excitement continued. The control team conducted tests to showcase the mech's abilities. It moved gracefully, performing complex maneuvers that left the audience in awe. They watched as the mech demonstrated its advanced systems, firing precision shots at targets in the distance. The pilots communicated seamlessly, showcasing teamwork and skill. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the crowd, Dr. Grant thanked everyone for their support. "This is just the beginning. Together we will ensure the safety of our planet." The crowd erupted in applause, united in their hope for a brighter future. Little did they know that their joy would soon be tested. The Planetary Mech was not just a machine, it was a beacon of hope. And as the aliens plotted their attack, Earth prepared to show the universe that it was ready to defend itself. Across the vastness of space, the news of the Planetary Mech reached the ears of alien warlords. On the planet Thraxia, a dark and foreboding world, a council of powerful leaders gathered in a dimly lit chamber. The walls were adorned with trophies from their conquests, shattered weapons, battle flags, and even the remains of fallen foes. The air crackled with tension as the warlords debated their next move. At the head of the table sat Zarlok, a ruthless and ambitious warlord known for his cunning strategies. His eyes burned with a fiery determination as he addressed the council. "Earth has created a weapon that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. We cannot allow this mech to fully activate. We must strike before they can harness its true power." The other warlords nodded, their expressions grim. They understood the threat the Planetary Mech posed. It was not just a machine, it symbolized humanity's resilience and ability to fight back. If the mech became operational, it could turn the tide against any invading force. Warlord Korak, a hulking figure with a voice like thunder, banged his fist on the table. "We should gather our fleets and attack Earth immediately. We cannot let them have a moment to prepare." Zarlok raised his hand, silencing Korak. "We must be strategic. Rushing into battle without a plan will lead to our defeat. We need to gather intelligence and find a way to exploit their weaknesses. We must study this mech closely." The other warlords murmured in agreement, realizing the wisdom in Zarlok's words. They knew that defeating the planetary mech would not be easy. Days passed as the warlords plotted their attack. They dispatched scouts to gather information about Earth's defenses and the mech itself. As they collected data, the warlords began to craft a plan. They would launch a surprise attack while the mech was still undergoing final tests. If they struck quickly, they could catch the humans off guard. Meanwhile, on Earth, excitement grew as the engineers continued to work on the planetary mech. The control team was busy preparing for the next series of tests, eager to showcase the mech's capabilities to the world. Unbeknownst to them, the threat from the stars loomed closer. Back on Thraxia, the warlords finalized their plans. Zarlok smiled as he addressed his council. "We will deploy a fleet of 10 ships, each carrying our best warriors. They will strike during the mech's next test. The element of surprise will be ours." The warlords cheered, their spirits high as they envisioned victory. As the days turned into nights, Earth prepared for the upcoming test. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, but a sense of unease lingered among some members of the control team. Alex, the young pilot of the planetary mech, couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go wrong. He shared his concerns with Dr. Emily Grant, who listened carefully. "Dr. Grant, do you think we're ready? What if the aliens find out about the mech before we can fully test it?" he asked, worry etched on his face. Dr. Grant placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We are ready, Alex. We have trained hard for this moment. But it's always wise to stay alert. We must keep our eyes open." As the sun rose on the day of the next test, the crowd gathered once more to witness the planetary mech in action. Thousands of people filled the stands, their hearts full of hope. They were unaware of the dark forces plotting their downfall just beyond the stars. Meanwhile, the alien fleet, cloaked and silent, moved through the darkness of space. Zarlok stood at the helm of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. "Today, we show them that they are not ready for a true battle. They will fear us, and we will take back what is rightfully ours," he declared, his voice echoing through the ship. The ships flew closer to Earth, their weapons primed and ready. As the countdown for the mech's test began, the alien warlords prepared for the strike that would change everything. Tension filled the air on both sides of the universe. Earth stood on the edge of hope, while the aliens sought to crush it before it could bloom. In that moment, a storm was brewing, one that would test the courage and strength of humanity like never before. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and the world was about to discover if the planetary mech was truly the answer to their prayers. The sun rose over Earth, casting a warm glow across the horizon. Excitement filled the air as people prepared to witness the second test of the planetary mech. Thousands gathered at New Eden, the bustling city where the mech stood tall and proud. Families filled the stands, their faces lit with hope. They believed this giant robot would protect them from the dangers lurking in space. As the crowd cheered inside the control center, Alex and the team made final preparations. The atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy. Dr. Emily Grant stood by the control panel, ready to oversee the test. "Remember, everyone, this is not just a test. It's a show of strength for the world," she reminded her team, her voice steady. Outside, the planetary mech loomed over the crowd, its metal surface gleaming in the sunlight. Alex took a deep breath, looking at the controls before him. "Let's do this," he said, determination in his eyes. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, activate. The mech powered up, humming to life. The crowd erupted in applause as its massive arms moved gracefully, showcasing its strength. However, far above Earth, the alien fleet hovered silently in the darkness of space. Zarlok watched through his ship's viewport, a smirk on his face. "Now is our moment," he whispered to himself. As the planetary mech executed its maneuvers, a sudden alarm rang out in the control center. "Alert! Multiple unidentified ships detected approaching Earth." A technician shouted, panic rising in his voice. Dr. Grant's heart sank. She quickly turned to her team. "We need to prepare for battle. Get the mech ready! The crowd, still cheering for the mech, began to sense the tension. Whispers spread like wildfire. What's happening? Are we under attack? As confusion mounted, the sky darkened with the shadows of the incoming alien fleet. Zarlok's ships descended toward Earth, their weapons armed and ready. The alien warlords had come to crush the hope that the planetary mech represented. As they broke through the atmosphere, they unleashed a barrage of energy blasts aimed directly at the city below. The crowd gasped as explosions rocked the ground. Panic erupted and people scrambled for cover. Get to safety! Military personnel shouted, trying to direct the terrified crowd. The majestic mech, which had been a symbol of hope, was now the only line of defense. Inside the mech, Alex gripped the controls tightly. We need to respond! We can't let them destroy everything, he shouted to Dr. Grant. Activate defense systems, Dr. Grant ordered. The mech's powerful weapons activated, ready to defend the planet. As the first wave of alien ships approached, the planetary mech fired back with incredible force. Energy blasts shot from its arms, striking the alien ships. Explosions lit up the sky, and for a moment it seemed that Earth might hold its ground. But Zarlok had anticipated this. He commanded his fleet to unleash their own counterattack. Fire all weapons! Show them no mercy! He roared. The skies lit up with chaos as beams of energy shot toward the mech, striking it with powerful blows. The crowd watched in horror as the once invincible robots staggered under the assault. Inside the mech, alarms blared as systems flickered. We're taking damage! We need to retreat! One of the crew members shouted. But Alex shook his head. We can't back down now! We need to hold our ground! The battle raged on, with both sides suffering losses. The planetary mech fought valiantly, using its advanced weaponry to defend the city. But the alien forces were relentless. More ships arrived, joining the fray and overwhelming Earth's defenses. As the battle continued, Dr. Grant monitored the situation, desperate to find a solution. We need to adapt. Use the environment to our advantage, she urged. Aim for their engines. If we can disable their ships, we can turn the tide. With renewed determination, the crew adjusted their tactics. The planetary mech began to target the alien ship's engines, aiming for precision strikes. The crowd, witnessing the fierce struggle, felt a wave of hope return as they saw the mech fighting back with courage. Despite the chaos, the will of humanity shone through. The fight for Earth had begun, and everyone knew they had to stand strong against the invading forces. The fate of the planet now rested on the shoulders of the brave pilots and the powerful mech designed to protect them. The battle raged across the skies above New Eden, a furious clash between Earth's planetary mech and the overwhelming alien forces. As explosions shook the ground, the once bright sun was hidden behind dark clouds of smoke and debris. The sounds of war filled the air, echoing through the hearts of the people below. Hope flickered like a candle in the storm, but the spirit of humanity burned brightly. Inside the planetary mech, Alex and his crew fought bravely against the alien invaders. The mech's controls were alive with activity as they worked to defend their home. We need to regroup! Aim for the lead ship, Alex shouted, determination driving his voice. The crew quickly followed his orders, recalibrating their weapons for the next strike. Zarlok, the ruthless warlord, watched from his flagship, seething with anger. These humans think they can challenge us? He growled. Increase the firepower! We will crush them! The alien ships responded, firing a barrage of energy blasts at the mech, creating a dazzling but deadly light show in the sky. The planetary mech fired back, its weapons roaring as they struck down several smaller alien ships. The crew felt a surge of confidence. We can do this! One pilot exclaimed. The tide seemed to be turning, but Zarlok was relentless. He signaled for his most elite warriors to join the fight, determined to eliminate the mech once and for all. As the new wave of alien ships joined the fray, the situation grew more intense. The mech struggled to keep up with the increased onslaught. We need to find a weak spot in their formation, Dr. Emily Grant shouted, her eyes scanning the chaos on the screen. Look for a gap! Alex concentrated, searching for an opening. Suddenly, he spotted a vulnerable area in the alien fleet. There! If we push through that gap, we can get behind them, he yelled, excitement igniting in his heart. The crew quickly agreed, ready to take the risk. Full speed ahead, Dr. Grant ordered. The planetary mech surged forward, dodging incoming fire as it broke through the alien lines. The crew felt a thrill as they maneuvered past enemy ships, closing in on Zarlok's flagship. But Zarlok saw their plan. "Don't let them get away. Surround the mech!" he commanded, his voice a mix of fury and fear. The alien ships tightened their formation, trying to block the mech's path. Just as it seemed they would be trapped, Alex's instincts kicked in. "We can break through!" he shouted. "We need to give it everything we've got." With all power diverted to speed, the planetary mech charged forward, slamming into the enemy ships. The sound of metal crashing against metal filled the air as the mech broke through the line. "Yes, we did it!" one crew member cheered. They had made it behind enemy lines. From this vantage point, they opened fire on the alien ships, targeting their engines and disabling several of them. Zarlok's frustration grew as he realized his plan was failing. "They cannot win! We must crush their hope!" he roared, rallying his remaining forces. The battle shifted in favor of Earth. With the alien fleet now disorganized, the planetary mech pushed further into enemy territory, destroying ships one by one. The crew cheered as they saw their efforts paying off. "Keep going! We can win this!" Alex shouted, his voice filled with excitement. But Zarlok, not willing to give up, activated his flagship's ultimate weapon, a massive energy cannon designed to obliterate entire cities. "Prepare to fire!" he commanded, aiming the deadly beam at New Eden. The crew of the planetary mech felt a chill of fear as they realized the threat looming over their city. Dr. Grant's mind raced. "We need to stop that cannon before it fires. If we don't, everything we've fought for will be lost." She quickly calculated their next move. "We can use the mech's thrusters to make a quick maneuver. We can get close enough to disable it!" With the crew working in unison, they guided the mech towards the flagship. As they approached, the alien ship fired at them, energy blasts illuminating the darkness. The mech shook with each hit, but they pressed on, determined to protect their home. Finally, they reached the flagship and Alex shouted, "Now! Aim for the cannon!" The mech fired a powerful blast, hitting the energy cannon just as it was about to fire. An explosion rocked the alien ship, and Zarlok's plans crumbled around him. "No!" he yelled, his voice filled with rage and despair. The tides had turned, and the planetary mech stood tall, a symbol of hope against overwhelming odds. As the alien forces began to retreat, the crew felt a surge of triumph. They had faced the storm and emerged victorious. But the battle was far from over. Zarlok would not accept defeat easily, and the crew knew the fight was just beginning. Together, they would prepare for the next challenge, ready to defend Earth with every ounce of strength they had. The battle above New Eden had reached a critical point. The planetary mech, battered but resolute, stood defiant against the remnants of Zarlok's alien fleet. Explosions filled the air, and the sky was filled with the smoke of fallen ships. However, a sense of victory began to pulse through the crew as they watched the alien forces falter. Zarlok's flagship, once a symbol of power, now limped through the debris of the battlefield. Inside, the Warlords seethed with anger and disbelief. How could they have turned the tide? He muttered, pacing the control room. He turned to his commanders, his voice like ice. "We must regroup and strike back. They cannot be allowed to win!" But his commanders exchanged worried glances. The losses were mounting, and many of their ships had been disabled or destroyed. "Warlord, our forces are dwindling. Perhaps it is time to consider other options," one commander suggested hesitantly. Zarlok shot him a sharp look. "You propose we surrender, after all we have fought for?" His voice was filled with rage, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Meanwhile, in the planetary mech, Alex and his crew celebrated their unexpected success. The crowd below cheered as the mech stood as a beacon of hope, its massive frame silhouetted against the fiery backdrop of the battle. "We did it! We actually turned the tide!" one pilot shouted, pumping his fist in the air. Dr. Emily Grant smiled, but her brow furrowed with concern. "Let's not celebrate too soon. We need to be prepared for anything. Zarlok may still have tricks up his sleeve." As if on cue, a transmission came through from the alien flagship. The screen flickered, revealing Zarlok, his face twisted with anger but also a hint of desperation. "Humans!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the control center. "I demand a parley. I wish to discuss terms of surrender." The crew was taken aback. Alex glanced at Dr. Grant, unsure of what to make of the sudden proposal. "Is this a trap?" he asked, skepticism lacing his words. Dr. Grant thought carefully before responding. "It could be, but we should at least hear him out." We have fought hard, and a peaceful resolution is always better than continued conflict. After a moment of discussion, they decided to accept the meeting. Alex transmitted their response, arranging for a neutral location just outside the mech's reach. The tension in the air was palpable as they awaited Zarlok's arrival. Minutes later, a small alien shuttle approached the mech, hovering cautiously. Zarlok stepped out, flanked by a few of his remaining commanders. His demeanor was different, less aggressive and more calculated. The crew gathered, wary but ready to hear what he had to say. "Humans!" Zarlok began, his voice firm but lacking the fury from before. "I come to you not as a conqueror but as a defeated leader. My fleet is shattered and my forces are broken. I seek to end this conflict." Alex crossed his arms, skepticism still hanging in the air. "Why should we trust you? You came to invade us and destroy our home." Zarlok nodded, acknowledging the truth in Alex's words. "You are right. I made a grave mistake. I underestimated your strength and resolve. You have shown that you are not the weak species I thought you were. I propose a truce. In exchange for our safe passage, we will leave your planet and never return." The crew exchanged glances, weighing their options. Dr. Grant stepped forward. "If we accept this truce, what guarantee do we have that you will keep your word?" she challenged. Zarlok hesitated, then replied, "You have my word as a warlord. I will ensure that the remaining ships depart peacefully. I have no desire to continue this fight when defeat is imminent." His eyes held a flicker of sincerity, a rare sight from the once ruthless commander. Alex felt a mix of emotions. "If we agree to this, what's to stop you from attacking us later?" Zarlok's voice softened. "You have proven your strength today. You have earned my respect. I would rather negotiate than wage war against a foe I cannot defeat." After a tense silence, the crew began to nod, realizing that this might be their best chance for peace. "We will agree to your terms," Dr. Grant said finally. "But we want assurance that you and your forces will not return. We will monitor the skies, and any sign of aggression will be met with force." Zarlok inclined his head. "Agreed. You have my word." As the alien fleet prepared to leave, a sense of relief washed over the crew of the Planetary Mech. They had not only defended their planet, but had also achieved peace without further bloodshed. The cheers from the crowd echoed below as the alien ships turned away from Earth, their silhouettes fading into the distance. For the first time, humanity felt a sense of unity and strength, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.